studio with me this morning is Superintendent Ed Fletcher from Monmouth-Roseville School District. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning.
Good thing that you're working in air conditioning.
I was just thinking the same thing. We now have air-conditioned buildings. I was just thinking if this was August, we would have to say, oh, we got to get out early now. We can stay in the buildings and we can do what we need to do. So it's very nice to have that.
Yes. Okay, so everybody's been waiting on your school board meeting that happened last night. Some big announcements came out of them.
Yeah, big announcements. First and foremost, we hired a new high school principal. It's Eric Matthews, coming to us from Galesburg. Longtime AD he was in Monmouth-Roseville way back in 05, 06. He was here for 2 years as an AD, AP, then spent some time in Farmington as a athletic director, and then most recently some time in Galesburg as their athletic director. So we're excited to have him on board as our high school principal.
Yeah, Eric Matthews, I do believe, a Monmouth College graduate. He's had a pretty nice career in and around our area, working with Dr. Asplin, who's the superintendent at Galesburg and was at Farmington.
Yes.
So nice to have Eric back in the district as the high school principal. Who was the assistant? Is that Nate Johnson?
Yep, Nate Johnson's the assistant. So, they'll work well together, and it's
that's perfect because he was the AD for a while here.
Yeah. So a little bit of having Nate on board, was with the understanding the current climate of the building and rules, regulations, and so on and so forth, and someone coming in from the outside with a different eye, a different view of things, to say, well, maybe this works good, but maybe something else would be better, or maybe see something that doesn't work good and say, oh, we need to make some changes to this.
They'll work well together, and Coach Adolphson, your AD, he'll work very well with Eric and Nate also. This works out very well.
Yeah, I think the team there,
Nate's a Monmouth College grad, I think, too.
Yeah, the team there, there's going to be immediate cohesiveness, which is, it's very nice to have. With Eric leading the helm, they'll be able to do some good things. The interview committee felt very strongly about Eric, and I think, he's going to do a fine job.
Okay, when does he start?
He will start near the end of July. I don't have the exact date sitting in front of me, but it's probably that third week of July.
Okay. All right, congratulations to them. And what was next? What was the next announcement?
Well, the next is Coach Grant. It was officially approved as our high school basketball coach, head varsity boys basketball coach. There are some volunteer assistants that were approved as part of the slate as well. Mike Houston, Jim Simpson, Jake Sotos, and Doug Grant. I guess that goes by Doug Grant, were approved as volunteer boys.
Oh, good. So
coaches.
Coach Sotos, and you said Mike Houston.
Yep.
And who else?
Jim Simpson, who was with Coach before, and Doug Grant.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
those are the four volunteers. Oh, that's great.
I guess to make it clear, we have an assistant coach, a JV coach. That's Eric Sikorsky. Ethan Sikorsky, yes. I'm sorry, Ethan Sikorsky.
Good for Ethan.
And then we have our freshman basketball coach, Tanner Schreck. So the nuance of basketball is something. The boys. The JV coach isn't always like right there by the varsity coach because they don't practice together, so they don't know all the ins and the outs. Because we do a lot of practicing over at Central Intermediate also, and sometimes the freshmen are at Lincoln, depending on when the girls practice and the boys practice. It's quite a symphony of moving gyms and making gyms available. So having the assistants available, the volunteer assistants available, when you have a squad of 12 to 15, being able to get specific with different position players and being able to work on different moves and then getting them together as a group, that's the nuance of having such a large contingent of people.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is going to be a strong program. I mean, You've got Hall of Famer Coach Chuck Grant.
Yep.
And then you said, of course, the JV coach, Ethan Sikorsky, another fantastic young man in the program.
Budding head, one of these days, he's his mind, when you want his mind for the game is really good.
Oh, we appreciate everything he does on the air as well. He's terrific. And then freshman coach Tanner Schreck, another great one. And then you've got those volunteers, and you keep, Jake Sotos, that's awesome because he was the head coach, and he's got a beautiful family to raise, but he still gets to have a part of that passion of basketball. So that's really good.
They get to influence, the players on their team, whether you're a freshman, sophomore JV team, varsity team, they get to influence their lives, help them, with some of life's challenges, and then teach them basketball at the same time, and prepare them for life after high school, because sports is just that means to help kids with teach them some of the lessons that they learn in sports with all these gentlemen. So it's exciting time for the basketball program.
Okay, what's next on the agenda from last night?
Well, we also approved a swimming co-op with Galesburg. You have to. Swimming is unique in the sense that you have to have at least 4 swimmers, and then those swimmers can then, if you have an individual team. If you don't have those 4 swimmers, if you have 1 or 2, they can only do individual events, 2 individual events, and so but they can't do team events because a swimming relay is 4. So our numbers, they've ebbed and flowed since the start of the program, and so but we can look into the future and see that we're gonna teeter on that number. But working with Galesburg and co-oping with Galesburg, gives our student athletes, some assurance that they will be on a squad. They can do their individual events, and then they can do team events. And nice. So and plus if you're a team of 1, you got to do that for the love of swimming,
mm-hmm.
But in this case, you get to be around other kids. There is fun in going to events and talking to kids during events. But if you're in a team of 1 and you're talking to yourself at an event, that's probably not going to look good. So
okay.
The couple things I brought up to the board academically are Illinois is moving from the SAT back to the ACT. So this is going to be in place for 6 years. So many moons ago, it used to be the ACT, and then it switched to the SAT. Now it's switching back to the ACT. I don't pretend to think, to understand the rhyme or reason for switching back. They have a procurement process that, this is part of what they do. So we're going to work with our staff to make sure we're ready to go, because it's a change for the kids. And, for kids, who want to do well on these tests, this switching back and forth probably isn't the most positive side of things, but they'll adjust and adapt just like they do with anything else. So it's just, I let the board know about that. I updated the board on some summer projects. Our high school restrooms are being demoed. The demo's almost done. You walk in there and you look at those bathrooms and you're just like, it's incredible. You can just see the changes over the years. We're getting some new interior door locks at the high school as well. The junior high is going to see some really big updates. The science labs are it's the second year of their remodel. We did part of it last year. We're doing the rest of it this summer. And down in the basement, we're doing some putting in some suspended ceilings in the basement, kind of hoping that we're able to deaden some of the sound down there, because when you're teaching class and you have kids eating lunch, it's, we're trying to, make sure that we mitigate that. We're replacing the sound system at the junior high and the gym as well. If anyone drives by Central, you'll see that on the south side of the building, we're doing some concrete work, some drainage work, because we have some buses that pick up kids there, and it was always, when there's a lot of rain or snow, it was kind of a sloppy mess, so we're trying to fix that as well. And the soccer field's getting new lights, so hopefully those will be installed next week. And the last thing we did, we approved a tentative amended budget. For us, in the amount of grants that we have, we're never really sure, in September, those numbers and what we're going to have. And then sometimes we get increases in numbers. So, we have our best guess of what it looks like in September, and then in May we come back and amend it. So, we had the hearing prior to the board meeting, and then the board approved that amended budget in a regular meeting.
Cool.
So it was a jam-packed meeting with a lot of different things, but the gist of what we just talked about, a lot of big changes.
A lot of changes. You feel like you have all of your openings taken care of now? Yeah,
we have a few, much better shape than we have been in the past. Of course, we always cross our fingers that between now and, the beginning of school year, somebody doesn't leave. That always causes us some anxiety, especially in this day and age where in some cases there's just not a lot of applicants for teaching jobs or even non-A jobs. There's just not a lot of people applying for jobs. And so, yeah, we're always a little bit anxious. So we're in a good spot. We feel, but that could change in a heartbeat.
Yeah, real quick, your opinion on some of these big announcements coming across the nation. We've got the second largest school in the nation. Their board voted 5-2 to ban cell phones at school now that the Surgeon General has put out a warning label that is associated with the use of social media for students under the age of 18. What do you think is going to happen nationwide?
Well, I think it's going to ebb and flow by community. Sometimes parents are very used to being able to text their kid and get an immediate response. So I wouldn't call it codependency, but people like, we're in a day and age where people want instant information. They want instant response. So not having that. I mean, when we went to school, a parent had to call the school and you had to get the kid out of the class. And so you would have never thought that you would have a phone. But there are times I even catch myself, with the child I still have in high school texting and then thinking, okay, why did I just text? Like, I need to be more mindful of that. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, it comes down to, the individual teacher, because kids are going to still try to figure out, how do I get my phone into class? And then schools are going to have to figure out what's the consequence if they do have it out in class, because I can probably guarantee you kids are going to want to get their phone out. How are we going to monitor it? And then what's going to be the consequence? Many, many moons ago, when I was an assistant principal, cell phones were just becoming a thing with kids. And so it was a battle. You'd say to the kid, put your phone up. No, I'm not putting my phone up. Okay, so if a kid has their phone, how are you going to get the phone from them if they're not going to give it up? And so it becomes, and it can become, a battle, with kids. And so at that time, we used to say, well, you keep your phone, give us the battery. And so we'd keep the battery. But still, then we give it back at the end of the day. I spent a lot of hours getting yelled at by parents, why'd you take my kid's phone? And then if you didn't secure that phone, who's responsible for the phone if it gets stolen from the people who have secured it? So there's questions that need to be answered and talked through. I mean, to ban them, I can't tell you whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I think the little details of the plan are the most important piece of it.
Sure.
When it comes to that.
And it looked like they had 120 days they were going to take to rewrite policy and procedure about phones. So I have no idea what will happen. And it's also interesting because you have teachers who have always known that phone. So they may feel that they need their phone to know where their kids are at, or their husband,
so
or
we're gonna,
they're used to communicating.
That will be a discussion. So if we take it from kids and all of a sudden a teacher standing in front of the class and they get a phone call and they step out in the hallway.
Right.
There will be however many kids in that room going, well, you're taking it from me.
Right.
How come? Why do you get to have it? Why do you get to interrupt my instructional time for that?
Right.
So there's other questions. It's I can't, like I said, I can't say whether it's a good or bad thing, but there's going to be a lot of nuance in regards to how it's implemented and how schools follow through with the implementation.
Well, we'll watch and just see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, at this day and age, I mean, we do have teachers at our high school who say no cell phones, and the kids don't get out phones.
Sure.
I mean, so that still is and can be an expectation without a policy or without a procedure. But at the end of the day, it's the surveillance, it's the monitoring, it's what are you going to do when that kid breaks the rule. That still becomes the most important piece of it.
Well, we'll just
interesting times.
See what happens. Yeah. Again, the big news last night, the school board approved the swimming co-op with Galesburg for Monmouth-Roseville to, the co-op with Galesburg. Head coach for the varsity boys basketball position has been awarded to Chuck Grant, who's also a Hall of Famer, formerly the coach of Monmouth-Roseville. Ethan Skorsky, Tanner Schreck, your two JV and freshman coaches, and also 4 volunteers as well. We'll go with that program. and a high school principal has been hired. That's Eric Matthews, who was the AD or is currently the AD at the Galesburg Junior Senior High School and the assistant high school principal here at Monmouth-Roseville. Of course, he was at Freezing for Food and let us know that is Nate Johnson. So,
yep.
All right, that's the big news.
Big changes going on. So, have a great summer.
Yes, we'll see you next month.
See you next month.